how does it feel to add another notch, another hole to our gold star bad movie episodes? I went back through to see how many of the capital B bad movies we've done. Troll 2.
That's so bad that it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think you could argue that for most of these.
Yeah, I think there's definitely like a late night, midnight market for Mac and Me, I'd imagine, thanks to Paul Rudd.
I think you could see Troll 2, The Room, and Mac and Me are all so bad it's good.
Sure.
If that's your thing.
Maybe
even, why is it that we've now been doing the show long enough that I have a nostalgia for Battlefield Earth? When did that happen?
I was listening to the new last podcast on the left. They're talking about they're talking about David Miscavige, and they touched a little bit on how nobody knows that there was originally an attempt to do Battlefield Earth back in the 80s. And it's like, we knew! We covered that! And so, yeah, I had...
text Marcus later.
So I for whatever reason, I look back on that fondly.
Yeah.
Somebody else mentioned something about Forrest Whitaker earlier today. I went, oh, he was so good in Battlefield Earth. I didn't say that aloud, thankfully.
No,
but
you get stabbed. I've been playing Jedi Fallen Order, and he popped up.
Oh my
for
God!
A second.
Oh yeah, he does have a little bit of Saw Gerrera moment in there.
I was like, drink your sweet Fardango, Saw Gerrera. And then, of course, we also did Saving Christmas, which is
Jesus Christ,
not so bad as good.
No, that's just terrible.
It hurts.
Yeah, never again.
So, I'm glad we got to cover this one. I don't honestly, I don't know what other really well-known terrible movie is that's left. I think we did the big ones.
There's still some out there, I'm sure. We'll do some digging and find something fun for season 3.
I mean, this director alone has also done Taming the T-Rex. Which is
really?
It's not as well-known as Mac and Me.
Sure.
But it's...
I've at least heard the title before.
There's 2 cuts of it.
What?
I just found this out.
There's a director's cut of Taming in the T-Rex?
I don't know if it's director's cut, but it's the cut that they left all the gore in.
Oh God!
So it's like, it is a T-Rex.
Well, so you got us there.
There are hopes for season 3 in terrible movies.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to DeRazzled, the podcast that takes award-winning worst films and fixes them. I'm host Jack Culbertson. Here to suffer alongside me, as always, is also host Joe Nealis.
Hi, everybody.
Joe, we've kind of already touched on this, but what was your first exposure to Mac and Me?
Oh, it was 100%. I can't even pinpoint the first time that I actually saw this happen because I've been watching Conan O'Brien since I was 11.
Sure.
I would especially in the summers. I have very fond memories of staying up late at night in the summer, in my basement bedroom, just watching talk shows. I would stay up to watch Leno and especially Conan, and Paul Rudd would inevitably come on at some points, and any time that he was plugging a movie and claimed that he had a clip, it would inevitably be this clip from Mac and Me. And the whole shtick is that Paul Rudd doesn't acknowledge that that's what's happening. It's a little prank he's playing on Conan O'Brien, and
it's a bit that he's held onto for years.
Including on Conan's fucking podcast. He did it in an audio medium.
Respect.
I absolutely commitment to the bit like none other. Good Lord, man. Though as good as that one was, my favorite is probably in the last week of Conan's time on television when he did the one with Bill Hader, where Hader was telling a story where he was doing a really shitty skit with Paul Rudd, and he was saying that Paul wasn't doing a voice properly, and then Paul Rudd walks out in a tuxedo and pulls up a chair next to him and is like, "How dare you? I did the voice. I did the thing." It was just it was a terrible skit. And it just so happens I've got footage of it because they keep the cameras rolling for those dress rehearsals. Here it is. And then Mac and Me.
Right. But the look on Bill Hader's face is he's like, oh.
Yeah, he knows it's coming.
That was really good. I was aware of the movie kind of floating around in existence, but it didn't really. same for me. Like I saw Paul Rudd showing it to Conan.
Yes. Yeah, I would have no. I mean, aside from having now seen the movie,
Right.
I would have no grounding for what the fuck this movie even was.
I think I had seen the poster at one point. And I was like, oh, this looks like a terrible movie from the 80s.
Sure.
Wonderful. Fantastic. I've been really excited to get to this part because we haven't had a movie. A lot of the movies we've been doing lately are a little newer and don't have the history.
True.
To look into.
Yeah, as much as I like a lot of our recent episodes, I have kind of missed that aspect of it. Like, there hasn't been as much like shit to dig into.
Probably Showgirls was the last one that had
Showgirls.
Like, a decent amount of stuff to look into.
I would agree
even
with
that.
that.
It was like not a whole lot.
Yeah, nothing is really compared to Mommy Dearest on that front this season.
God. Yeah. So the first person, probably the person most responsible for this movie is R.J. Lewis, who's the producer on the film.
Okay, is he the producer who was responsible for like having an actual like wheelchair user as a star?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
he's of the people I'm going to list here. I'm conflicted because he'll say one thing where I'm like, that's admirable, but then he still does like sleazy producer shit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, which of this is it? It doesn't matter.
Sure.
So he wanted to do specifically Mac and Me for quote unquote for charity. This is 6 years removed ish from E.T.
Yes.
He's like, this new generation needs their E.T.
Yeah, because we're that far removed.
I'm like, I know generations is a little bit of a loose thing, but
now that World War II is over, I think that this generation needs their own Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Like, what? What are you fucking talking about?
9/11
was yesterday. We need a new Battlefield Earth. Like, what are you talking about?
God, I was just reading about Spielberg's like best to worst films. And they were kind of marking like 9/11 as like a turning point for him. I
mean, as it was for
a
lot of people. It was a thing.
It was a bit of a thing. I'm like, oh yeah.
Kind of a to-do.
Looking at the whole list, I can kind of see it now.
Yeah. What was his first movie post 9/11?
Was it War of the Worlds?
Oh, that tracks.
I could be wrong.
All right.
Anyway, R.J. Lewis. So he already had a relationship with the McDonald's company.
What was that?
He had done a number of commercials for them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So he wanted to get funding from McDonald's directly to make this movie. Didn't quite happen, kind of.
Okay, that's suspect.
And I don't know what I thought I knew what the difference is, but now I don't know. Because he got the funding from the people who distribute the meat to McDonald's, which is called Golden State Foods. However, it's not like we both work in food. You work in food.
I bust tables at a college cafeteria.
Right.
That's
There's like the big food distributors.
Right. Yeah. Like you have different companies that bring you particular things. Like you'll have your Coke and your Pepsi distributors or whatever. You'll have the people who bring in the meat, the people who bring in the dairy, the people who bring in so on and so forth.
So that's what I had in mind when I read about Golden State Foods. But that's kind of the case, but not really.
Okay.
Because the only people they distribute to is McDonald's.
Oh, so they're kind of like that company that does all of their ice cream machines.
Yes.
Okay.
Their CEO's name is Jim Williams. So basically when Daddy McDonald said no, he went to Mommy McDonald.
Ask your mother.
Yeah. So anytime he needed something that was like McDonald's related, like a location that was a McDonald's, and Ronald McDonald, he went to Jim Williams, who liked him.
Okay.
And Mommy McDonald's gave it to him.
Huh.
Including a sizable amount of money.
So I guess that begs the question, because like one of the ways that McDonald's makes like the vast majority of its money is the real estate on which the locations are built on. Yeah. Like they actually make slightly more money in rent from their franchisees than they do from the actual food they sell. It's a whole thing. There's YouTube videos about it. There's also a lot of YouTube videos about their fucking ice cream machines always being broken. Anyway, that begs the question for me, like, does Golden State Foods own certain franchises if they were able to make that work?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because otherwise, how would they have the rights to like do that?
Well, there is one last connection.
Okay.
So, R.J. Lewis, the producer,
sure,
buddied up to Jim Williams, the CEO of Golden State Foods.
Okay.
And because McDonald's only gets food from Golden State Foods, they're like, okay, well, we got to stay on good terms with our only food distributor.
Okay.
So they're like, fine, you can make your little movie. The only thing you can't do is put Ronald in the movie.
No, but that happened.
But that definitely happened.
There's a Ronald in there for a little bit. He seems happy to be there.
Yeah. I mean, he was. I just have a little clip on him. So that was specifically Squire Friedel, who was.
I've heard that name.
Really?
Yeah.
He has done other stuff.
But I think I've heard that name specifically in relation to Ronald McDonald, if I'm not mistaken.
He was Ronald McDonald from 1985 to 1991.
Yes. Okay.
And I imagine with the way the commercials worked at that time, we're seeing commercials with him for years.
Or at least like some of the moments where we were starting to form memories as like 3-year-olds, we could have potentially seen him.
There's also a point where I don't know if you remember this. There was a horrible like animated Ronald McDonald for a while.
Yeah.
In the style of, I don't know, it was like a almost Rocket Power. Was that the show? It was like a squiggly design.
Yeah, no, I vaguely remember this. Rocket Power does feel. I mean, it's Rocket Power came later, if I'm not mistaken, but it does feel like that kind of thing with like the real narrow neck and the squiggly line outlines and stuff. Like not quite Ed, Edd and Eddy, but more defined than that.
It was like they saw. This is a weird combination. It's like they watched Aeon Flux, the animated show, and then they watched Rocket Power. Well, which I guess they looked into the future for that.
Sure.
And they're like, that's our Ronald McDonald right there.
I do remember this, actually.
BDSM.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So Aeon Flux was a lot.
It was. That was like the whole deal.
So, I have Squire Friedel down as responsible, but he was a career actor. He was
he was just doing his thing,
and he did it perfectly.
Yeah. That's what I would have wanted out of a Ronald McDonald in that situation.
Yes, I agree. So as far as McDonald's themselves, they contributed to this disaster, one, because they were kind of bullied into it.
Sure. By their meat people.
Slash, just like, this is a bigger hassle than what's worth. Just fine.
Just fucking go. God.
However, they did immediately drop interest when
they saw the alien suits.
You would think. They dropped all fucks to give as soon as they made a deal with, can you guess it? The mouse.
Oh, the mouse.
The mouse.
The mouse. Why did I not realize the mouse was going to rear his fucking head? Ah.
It was, it was like The Little Mermaid, I think, was coming back in the theaters. I could be wrong. I'm guessing. But Disney made like a giant money deal with McDonald's, and all of the plans that R.J. Lewis had for Mac and Me were dropped. So like he wanted to promote Mac and Me once it was finished in stores with like big cardboard cutouts. You could like buy the VHS at a McDonald's and all this stuff.
I mean, that would have been a hell of a deal.
Tie-in toys. And then McDonald's was like, yeah, fine. But this mouse, which then they made toys with giant cardboard cutouts. I don't know if they ever sold VHSs. I know they did have a VHS special at one point, because you could buy like a McDonald's edition of the Addams Family. Yeah, it was weird.
That I don't know how to feel about that.
That might be like a fever dream. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but it could have been a fever dream.
Sure. All right.
Like that and like Home Alone.
That I can understand a little bit
Right.
more, just because, child defends himself from home invaders feels a little bit more within McDonald's realm somehow than
It was like a Christmas thing,
America's
Christmas
favorite
promotion.
family of goths.
It was like, hey, buy this like 90s Christmas-ish movie at a cheaper price because you're also buying like a Happy Meal or whatever.
Right, yeah. You're also getting your McDouble or whatever.
Right. But R.J. Lewis had that dream first for Mac and Me.
Huh.
Yeah. So the mouse popped in and was like, hey. And McDonald's was like, basically dumped R.J. Lewis.
Weird alien movie with this guy that does our commercials.
Right.
Disney.
Right.
I wonder.
So those are probably the biggest contributors, followed by the director, Stuart Rayfield.
Tell me a little bit more about this guy.
I'd love to. So he started out in film as an animal wrangler, which is why you have scenes with dogs.
Okay, that's how there were so many horses.
That's why there were so many horses.
Okay. And dogs. Dogs and horses.
I forget. There was like a number of larger, like well-known movies that he'd been like the animal trainer on. But yeah, he's like, oh, you want an animal? We'll get it from Stu. He's got the horses and the dogs.
Sure.
I think some chimps.
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there. So, but he kind of graduated from that, moved on to directing a number of like smaller family films. He was God. So there was an actor that recommended him to RJ to direct this movie. That actor was James Brolin.
James Brolin? What?
Daddy of
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah. What?
He had worked with James Brolin on the 1981 film High Risk, which I've never heard of.
No.
But either James really liked that experience or really hated that experience because he recommended him.
But you know what? Fuck this guy. Mac and Me.
Right. God, where's that? So, Rayfield, this is what Rayfield claims. Because he claims one thing, the producer, RJ, claims a different thing.
Okay.
And this is a quote. I was hired out of the blue, and the producer asked me to come down to the office. So I did, and he had the whole crew there, a whole crew on the payroll. It was amazing. He had the transportation captain, the camera department head, the AD, the production manager. He had everything already hired, and I said, well, what's the script? And he said, we don't have a script. I don't like the script. You have to write the script. You're going to have to write it so quickly, so prep the movie and write the script on the weekends.
What?
RJ disagrees.
What does RJ say?
He disagrees.
Oh, that's it. You don't have a specific quote. It's just he says, "No, that's bullshit."
Yeah, he's like, we were like moving into production quickly, but it wasn't that everyone was hired. Given both their personalities, I don't know who's to believe.
That, oh my God.
Yeah.
I could not imagine being brought in for a project like that and being told on the spot, like, yeah, we don't actually know what we're doing. Make it up.
And you can, as I was saying in part one, there are moments where I'm like, this feels like it would have been shaved off in like a third or fourth draft.
Sure.
Such as the children knowing that the Max family uses straws to drink Coke out of the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. He probably wrote that scene before they shot it.
I believe that.
Another little addition to Mr. Rayfield. It's weird that we were just talking about this, but he was also affected by 9/11.
Oh.
He's well known, not well known, but he's now known for not directing films, but writing political thrillers that lean towards the Islamophobic side.
Oh, great. Okay.
The reviews on Amazon for this book are exactly what you think they would be. There's a crowd that very much likes it, and there's a crowd that very much hates it.
Oh boy.
Would you like to guess the name of this book? It's very clever. Rage.
Just rage?
Yeah.
I was gonna guess something like hyper patriotic or something, but like no, just rage.
I also hate that book that doesn't exist in this name, but no, that's too creative. This one's called Rage, and I didn't save the interview, but he's like, yeah, certain people are gonna like this or not gonna like this because I take a stance. I don't sit on the fence.
Maybe you should sit on a fence. Like just you get your asshole lined up right over like the point of that picket fence and just spin. Just whee!
Oh God. Yeah.
Ah, good Lord.
And that's all I have to say about Stuart Rafel.
Fuck that guy. Apologies to Steve Rafel, whoever he is.
Steve Rafel, you're fine. Maybe you're not.
Who knows? Awesome. Maybe you maybe you actually wrote like Star Spangled Eagles or whatever, the secret sequel to Rage.
It's not actually like tied in, but it's in the same universe.
It's in the spirit of this. It's fan fiction.
Oh, why is that gross? I also want to bring up two other people that worked on this. That one I'm mad at, and the other one I'm like, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The one I'm sorry for is N. Brock Winkless IV.
What a name. N. Brock Winkless IV.
Yes.
So that means there are 3 other N. Brock Winklesses in history.
That is correct.
That's astounding. Okay.
I feel for him because this was his first job as a puppeteer.
Oh no. Oh no.
Like, God, I don't imagine there are that many jobs for puppeteers in general, and you get signed for this movie that's being financed by McDonald's.
God.
How excited
it seemed, yeah, like that's got to seem like such a break at the time, and oh man,
he did it, and he moved on to better things.
Okay, what did he move on to?
He did a lot of the puppeteering for the Chucky films, the Child's Play films.
Oh wow, okay.
He did some work on Alien 3.
Neat.
He was the primary puppeteer for the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt.
That rules.
And he did some work on the mechanics for Terminator 2. Like he did
a
lot.
Okay, so he blossomed from there.
Quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah. I was worried that you're going to tell me that he's like actually the guy in fucking Good Morning that is the snake that bites that guy in that trailer. Like
oh God.
That good, good for him.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he has passed. Hell of a career.
So it'll be N.K. Winkless V who's actually doing that snake.
Right. He also had to start with a horrible film to work his way up. But I just think it's wild that like if you look up this guy, the first thing that's going to pop up on his resume is Mac and Me.
Yep.
And if you stop there, you're like, what a schmuck.
But then you go on, and you're like, there's gold.
Oh, yeah.
There's some real gold there, man. See, that gives me hope.
It does.
You know, like you keep doing it. Keep trying.
We all have a number of terrible films at the start. You've got to learn. Sometimes you've got to learn with a weird fetish naked baby horn ball. Anyway, Alan Silvestri.
He
should have known better.
He should have, honestly, at this point in his career. Good Lord. He already had Back to the Future under his belt.
So you looked up his resume.
I have his IMDb pulled up right in front of me. So just 1988 alone, he did, in addition to Mac and Me, he did Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is fucking great on all fronts. Roger Rabbit and the Secrets of Toontown, which was a TV movie. And I've never heard of this particular one, but My Stepmother is an Alien. Maybe porn
score too.
Porn need score. Score need porn. Porn need
porn score.
Porny score. I feel my brain melting. Just God.
I imagine that as like a pony. Like I'm putting all my money on.
Well, Dan Aykroyd is in this, so I doubt that it's porn.
I hope not.
Oh, that's definitely John Lovitz. Okay. Kim Basinger. No, it's Kim Basinger's in this. It's not porn. It's not porn. Oh, a very young Allison Hannigan's also in this, and Seth Green. That's weird. That's my stepmother's an alien. Okay. Yeah, fascinating. Anyway, he in addition to Back to the Future and everything else that we just named, he's also done The Abyss, Predator 2, Soap Dish, the Father of the Bride movies, the Super Mario Brothers movie.
The good one.
The good one. Damn right. I'm still going to see.
Yeah, me too.
He did some Tales of the Crypt. He did the 1995 Quick and the Dead and the 1995 Judge Dredd.
He has a little bit more of a cartoony feel to him, a little more playful than some of the other.
Forrest Gump, Lilo and Stitch, Stuart Little 2, Van Helsing, Polar Express, Night at the Museum. Unfortunately, 2007's Beowulf. Those G.I. Joe movies that came out in the aughts in 2010s. Captain America: The First Avenger.
That feels good.
Endgame. Ready Player One.
So,
and most recently, the live action Disney's Pinocchio.
Well,
another Razzie nominee. If you listened to our Razzie nominations episode.
Chance, Alan. So unlike N. Brock Winkless IV,
yes,
where this was his first gig on his way to doing much better stuff.
Yes.
Alan's had a little bit more of a hills and valley.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing composer. Like he has done some genuinely incredible, iconic work, but
he could have stopped after Back to the Future.
A lot of, I feel like most people probably fucking would have, but like, ride these coattails for the rest of my life, and
unless you're John Williams,
unless you're gonna just banger after banger after banger after banger.
John, you can retire.
You can stop.
Anyway, so that's kind of the quick and dirty on who is responsible for McAfee.
Yes.
This last little tidbit, and then we'll go to break. My original intent for the fix, was to do a full-blown McDonald's land. Kind of either the alien is actually like a Fry Kid or something, like make the Fry Kids trying to like find their way to McDonald's, or almost like a Muppet movie where it's like Ronald and a bunch of the gang trying to like find a Fry Kid.
Yeah, that's one of the things that kind of kills me is like the producer had to have, he knew about all this. There's a whole fucking mythology of like the Ronald McDonald Land people.
And then I did my research.
Oh.
So it was a little bit before this that they shut down McDonald Land.
Yes.
As far as having this lore. And they did this because the people who were behind McDonald Land fucking stole it.
Oh, that's right. I've heard about this. Wasn't it largely robbed from like HR Puff and stuff?
It was.
Yeah. That's, oh man.
HR Puff and stuff sued.
Yep.
And won.
Yeah, that'll do it.
I think like specifically Mayor McCheese was so stupid. I wish I could like get the court files of like
I'd read that brief. I would absolutely read that brief.
But that was like the turning point. Like, yeah, Mayor McCheese was definitely ripped off.
I remember watching a YouTube breakdown of this as well, actually, and there were some things that were just notably like not even pretending that it was different.
If I'm recalling correctly, they originally just wanted to have those characters.
Yeah,
the characters from
HR Puff and stuff. Yeah,
and those guys were like, nah.
Yep.
So I'll do it myself, except for.
Except I'm just gonna steal it.
Unlike Mac and me, that was legally different enough from ET. We were not legally different enough from HR Puff.
Yes.
So they didn't start bringing back elements of McDonald's Land till like the 90s.
Yes, I do remember some of that as a kid in Happy Meal stuff and in play places, but sparingly.
They changed the designs up.
Yeah,
because they learned, probably from Acme, and they didn't bring back some of the more obvious characters.
Sure.
So my fix was not that.
Fair.
And now let's go to break.
All right, we'll be back.
Are you ready
to
talk about Nuki?
Okay, I was just going to ask when.
That would be your... Hi, Bushy.
Hey, Bushy.
That'd be your time.
I mean, yeah, I've got my notes all pulled up and everything.
Because it's Nuki and then the fix, which is more of a summary. Yeah, I think our episodes are actually going to be probably about an hour a piece.
Okay. Can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Can you pull up just any clip of Henry Kissinger?
What?
just have it ready just in case.
Ew. I mean, I've Googled things that are grosser than this, but this is up there. Like a video clip?
Just audio's fine. Yeah, I get to spring surprises on you sometimes. I'm gonna blow my nose real quick while we're still on break here.
No, you're. I'll run downstairs and grab you something.
Okay. It's very dark.
Oh, yes, it is.
Bushy.
Gotta tell you, I'm real happy to get this movie out of my head.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure you're gonna be happy to never think of Nuki.
I'm gonna be real happy to not think of either of these movies.
Are you gonna talk about apartheid?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about apartheid.
Okay.
Briefly, I'm not going to talk super extensively about apartheid, but I have some notes as like a general crash course on the basics of apartheid.
I'm just thinking of the hashtags that are going to be attached to these episodes. Hacking me. Phenomenology.
Apartheid. Nelson Mandela.
What? HR Puffin stuff.
HR Puffin stuff. Alan Silvestri. Back to the Future.
Am I able to turn the volume up on mine, or will it make everything explode?
That's a good point. Hold on.
Sure. Great. So I can put his face away?
Yeah, you can put his face away. That's fine.
I'll let you bring us back in since you're covering this part. what's going on over there?
Nothing.
Okay.
What are you talking about? Just keep the screen awake, and
I can do that. All right.
All right.
You're ready.
Let me mark here. Welcome back, everybody. Hey, Jack. You know, there's a little bit more that you probably need to look out for in this fix. And it's not just HR Puffin stuff or the Fry Kids or the McDonald's Play World or anything like that. Did you know that Mac and Me is not the only 80s ripoff of E.T.?
I may have smelled that somewhere.
Smell's a good word for it. So I learned some stuff about a movie that came out actually 1 year before Mac and Me.
So you're saying Mac and Me stole both from E.T. and...
I'm not going to assume that anybody involved with Mac and Me could have possibly heard about this movie, because all of the shit involving this takes place on a different side of the planet, aside from like an actor or two.
Sure.
Welcome to Lapse Academic, a podcast within a podcast where I torture Jack with some more information that is weirdly relevant to what we're talking about here today. So before Mac and Me, in 1987, a little movie called Nuki was released. Directed by Sias Odendahl and Michael Paklepa, screenplay by Sias Odendahl and Ben Taylor, story by Sias Odendahl, starring Anthony Morrison, Sifue and Sifu Mlenjeni, I'm sorry if I butchered that last name, Steve Railsback, Glynis Johns, and Ronald France. It is hailed as the first and the worst E.T. ripoff. But in order to give you a better sense of like what kind of a shit show this is, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of this movie here. But I'm not as scared of horses as Jack is. Okay. So we're going to play a little game called Pavlovian Kissingers, where I'm going to give you this synopsis, and if it takes more than 5 minutes, Jack is going to play a part of a speech by one Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger, how the fuck aren't you dead?
I also don't like Henry Kissinger.
I know.
This is not good for either of us.
Well, I had to read about this movie.
Okay,
so.
well.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Nuki and Miko crash on Earth and are separated, the former landing in Nairobi and the latter in America, where he is taken captive and tested by the Space Foundation. Not NASA, the Space Foundation. Nuki learns of Miko's capture through telepathic communication and is determined to get to America to save his sibling. Along his journey, Nuki befriends a talking chimpanzee named Charlie, 2 young African boys named Tico and Toki, that's not going to get confusing, and eventually Space Foundation scientist Dr. Eric Harvey and head of the local Christian mission, Sister Anne. Tico and Toki, after being saved from a lion by Nuki, try to get assistance from their tribe to help Nuki find America, but instead they are banished because they believe Nuki to be a bad omen. Meanwhile, Miko befriends a supercomputer named Electronic Digital Data Intelligence, or EDI. Just savor that look on your face for a moment. Which he convinces to scan the globe for Nuki. Nuki is captured by the tribe and someone called the Corporal. Tico is bitten by a venomous snake and taken back to Dr. Harvey and Sister Anne for help, and he informs them of Nuki's capture. Tuki stows away on the truck Nuki is being transported on and frees him at a trading post. Dr. Harvey goes back to America for reasons. Eddie tries to free Miko, but fails, at least until someone named Pamela Carter arrives and decides to free Miko. The Corporal, who wants to sell Nuki, tries to chase down Nuki and Toki, but ends up driving their vehicle into a fucking river. Nuki also somehow ends up in this river and just goes over a waterfall, resulting in serious injury. Toki finds Nuki hurt and unable to contact Miko, but somehow able to fly? So they fly for a short distance until he crashes from exhaustion and presumably waterfall-related injuries. Toki wishes for his family and for Miko and Nuki's reunion, after which they are found by Sister Anne and Tico and Toki's mother. Toki convinces them that Nuki is not a bad omen or whatever, and that he's actually a friend in need, at which point he turns into his light form, because he and Miko are actually beings made of pure energy despite their raggedy physical appearance. Dr. Harvey returns in his helicopter with Miko. The reunited aliens rejoice and say they gotta go, but not before Charlie, the talking chimp I almost forgot about, asks to come with them. All three of them turn into balls of light, which then yeet themselves into space.
You done?
I'm done.
God, I wasn't a Kissinger.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be shorter than 5 minutes. Come on, I'm not going to give that blowhard a chance.
I recently saw a picture of a vividly accurate angel with a clown face.
Yes, you did.
Which inspired me to draw biblically accurate
clown.
Angel clown.
Angel clown, yes.
And I'm concerned that this image of our two fears
oh no, Jack,
is going to merge into Horsinger.
Horsinger?
Like a Horsinger, but an evolved form that commits war crimes but also has a cop on its back.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Horse cops are the worst.
Horse cops are the worst. Yeah, absolutely.
Keep going.
Okay. So what do you think Nuki's score is, critic score on Rotten Tomatoes?
9.
Trick question, it doesn't fucking have one because there's only one review.
That makes sense, yeah.
But it does have an audience score. What do you think that audience score is?
Audience is the worst. 23.
In keeping with last episode, you're short by 1.
Really?
24%. And like I said, there are literally a bunch of reviews. Several. I lost count of how many pages I looked through. There's a bunch of them, aside from all the ones that are just like, this is so bad I cried. There are a bunch of them where like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. 5 stars. Like verbatim, that is several reviews. What about IMDb?
It does have an IMDb
It does have an IMDb score. This is not a trick.
I want it to be 1 point something, but it's like 2.9.
Jack, you actually got your wish. It's a 1.7.
Oh, God.
That's the most relieved I've seen you in quite a while, actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
So why does anyone give a shit about this? So aside from the relevance in today's conversation about Mac and Me, Nuki was actually recently brought back into the public eye by the YouTube channel Red Letter Media. Most people know Red Letter Media because of their very long, very thorough, very scathing takedowns of the Star Wars prequel trilogy that featured their recurring character, Mr. Plinkett, who is almost certainly a serial killer.
I've never watched this show, so this is all very confusing.
Yes, that's fine. So they also have a series called Best of the Worst, where they all sit down and they watch usually VHS copies of some of the worst movies ever made, and just riff on them and comment on them and suffer. Things we can relate to in general. People have been requesting for years that they watch Nuki, but they just never did. But a lot of people actually went so far as to mail them VHS copies of the film, like repeatedly. Like a lot of people, a surprising number of people just owned VHS copies, or perhaps purposely found VHS copies to mail to them. They ended up with a collection of like 104 VHS copies of this goddamn movie somehow. I don't know how many that is compared to how many were made, but
when you're creating a series of VHS tapes, is it a printing? Is it a pressing? Is it?
I assume a printing, right? Because you have to actually print the film.
Yeah, kind of.
It's like magnetic tape, but yeah, I mean that's a process, right?
I'll ask for AI robot.
Sure, that's fine. They might know the answer. Who knows? Yeah, I for one welcome our new robot overlords. So they did eventually watch this movie because they did a whole big video about the strange world of VHS cassette grading and auctioning. which, if you're not familiar with grading, it's usually a thing that's applied to comic books or other rare collectibles. But because capitalism and weird people with way too much fucking money and time on their hands, it's been extending into things that were mass market produced, like video game cartridges and VHS tapes. Like the reason that this video came to exist was because a copy of Back to the Future sold for $76,000 at auction, which they point out, like, there are no rare, like, error copies of this movie. There are no, like,
there's no version where Marty gets shot by the cops at the end.
No, exactly. Like, yeah, it doesn't do what Mac and me dared to do. But yeah, it's sold for an astronomical amount of money. So they were examining, like, what the fuck is the cause of this? Like, well, how does all this work? So in the process of them doing this, they actually did sit down and watch Nuki, because they thought, it'd be really funny if we actually got a copy of Nuki graded, which they did, and it came out to like an 8.0, the one copy that they sent out, because they out of all their copies, they picked the most pristine one. They also, of note, tried to send in a VHS of a fake movie, and the grading house or whatever did catch it and be like, no, we can't in good faith give this a recommendation, but thank you. Yeah, so it's not a complete scam, I guess. So after they sent this in, they decided, well, we'll try to auction it off, and we'll give all the money to charity. Which they did. They did auction off this graded copy of Nuki on eBay, and it sold for $80,600. Half of which went to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and half of which went to the Wisconsin Humane Society.
Which is incredible.
Which is
great.
Good
for them. These are the same people that brought Morbius back into theaters the second time.
Yeah, probably. So, but in order to inflate the value of this copy of Nuki, they decided an easy way to do that would be to destroy the remaining copies that they had. So they destroyed 104 copies of Nuki by throwing them into a wood chipper. And you have a very sad look on your face, which
I do.
Which I agree. Like, I'm not one for the destruction of media. I believe this shit should be archived. Even something as asinine as this fucking movie.
As long as they have, and this movie's problematic, and we
will get to that. There are reasons. There are reasons for that. Yes. Though it could have been worse.
What?
We'll get to it.
As long as it's archived.
Yeah.
And we have this study. Would chip them all.
Which there is at least one extant copy. I'd imagine more, because it got made into VHS somehow, right? And also of note, while they were throwing these copies into a wood chipper, they received another copy, which they then threw into the wood chipper, along with the nice note that came with it. So with it, I also watched a little bit of them actually watching the movie, which is as close as I'm ever going to come to ever watching Nuki. I will not. It's not going to happen.
We watched the trailer.
Which was
awful.
Awful. So the video of them watching it, of the Red Letter Media folks watching it, centers on the constant screaming repetition of the names Nuki and Miko, a helicopter crash that results in a clearly not destroyed helicopter, the repetition of the same science lab establishing shot over and over and over again, and a buck wild scene of Nuki going over a giant waterfall that is clearly just one of the Nuki suits they hucked in a river. For their sakes, I genuinely hope that this is the last thing they needed to shoot with that suit. So Jack mentioned this movie is problematic, and I'm going to touch on that for reasons now. You may have noticed that I said earlier that wait, did I mention where this was made?
I don't believe so.
Oh, I meant to do that, actually. So Nuki is a South African movie, specifically. Sias Odendaal is a South African film director.
87?
Yes, it came out in 1987. So Sias Odendaal has a couple of other projects to his name, but good luck finding anything about them that's not written in Afrikaans. I certainly could not. Nuki is the only thing that has gotten any kind of any kind of note, and there's definitely a Room-esque midnight cult following surrounding it as well. Not to the same level, of course, but it exists. So anything coming out of South Africa before the 1990s is coming out of a country that is under apartheid. That is an important thing to note. It's a fucking downer. It fucking sucks, but that is ultimately informing all of the life and culture and politics of this country for half a damn century. South Africa operated under a system of apartheid from 1948 to about 1991, arguably 1994. I'll touch on that a tiny bit when I get out of this awful section. It's a system of racial segregation designed to ensure rule and supremacy of South Africa's minority white population politically, socially, and economically. Black South Africans, and also usually Indian and or colored South Africans. That was the official terminology.
Finger quotes there. You can't see them.
Yeah, there were finger quotes that I used there, but that is the official terminology that was used. They were all restricted or subjugated in myriad ways, including the following: where they could live, where they could work, who they could date, who they could marry, who they could have children with, what transportation they could use, what hospitals they could go to, what schools they could attend, what alcohol they could drink, what trade unions they could join, what beaches, swimming pools, pedestrian bridges, public parks, public toilets, graveyards, and drive-in cinema parking spaces they could use. And in terms of theaters, Black areas were completely restricted from having any theaters, while theaters in white areas were completely restricted from admitting Black patrons. So in a world like this,
right,
you're not exactly going to have the best opinions of Black people if you are, let's say, a white filmmaker in the 1980s. Apartheid was legally brought to an end in 1991, but was officially considered over in 1994 with the introduction of a new state flag and the first multiracial presidential election, resulting in the election of Nelson Mandela as the country's first Black president, along with fellow Black politician and ANC member Thabo Mbeki and former white president F.W. de Klerk serving as deputy presidents. Now, what the fuck does this have to do with Nuki, you might be asking? Great question! So, co-director Michael Paklepa originally was not set as a director on this project at all, according to a recent interview he gave to Days Digital. Fun fact, he does actually have a handful of directing credits beyond this movie, perhaps most notably as the director/writer/producer of Angels in Notting Hill, which features the final on-screen appearance of Christopher motherfucking Lee.
What?
Yep. You know, everyone's favorite Nazi hunting, having heard the sound of a man dying, witnessed a man killed by guillotine, met Rasputin's assassins, knight, and man who actually, an only member of the Lord of the Rings cast to have met J.R.R. Tolkien.
And a vampire.
And also a heavy metal musician, Christopher Lee.
He's not real.
What a fucking guy. There will never be another man like Christopher Lee.
And what is the name of this film again?
Angels in Notting Hill. Yeah. So
is it also problematic?
I have no idea. I did not look into it further. So through the 1980s, Paklepa was working as a film distributor in his homeland of Germany. So not even a South African man at this point. Okay. Odendahl was the South African director and conceiver of Nuki in its entirety, up to a point, which we're about to get into here. So as a film distributor, his company optioned Nuki for distribution without really knowing anything about it and before it had actually been shot. They just put the deal in place and thought, like, okay, maybe they're going to make some kind of kids movie or something. I heard it sounds like he has an idea for something that sounds like E.T. Yeah. Their reactions after first seeing this film, we thought we'd all die. There was no South Africa. There were hardly any extraterrestrials. We basically just saw discussions between a nun and a helicopter pilot who were going on and on about how stupid Black people are or something. Oh, imagine that again and again and again at extreme length and nothing else.
Oh.
When executive producer Gregory Cascante asked if Paklepa could fix these issues, Paklepa refused because he didn't want to step on Odendahl's toes and piss him off. Instead, they opted to edit out the quote-unquote unusable scenes, with the explicit goal of making the film less racist. The resulted cut was 40 minutes long.
Okay. Is that the cut that's been released?
No.
Okay.
No. Oh, no, there's much more to this story, Jack. In order to flesh out the film for release, Peklepa convinced a small crew to go to South Africa and do some reshoots. They were greeted with unexpected warmth and enthusiasm, including from Sias Odendahl himself. They were like fucking thrilled to have help to come on the work on this project. There was virtually no budget for these reshoots, very, very little money, and it was rife with other issues, which first, the alien suits.
Yeah.
So if you've seen the trailer for this, you notice they look terrible. They are haggard and ripped up and falling apart, and there may even be an argument for these fucking things being some kind of racist caricature. I'm not 100% sure. But the biggest issue with them, they're far too small. They are entirely too small. They couldn't fit an actual puppeteer or performer in them. Like, usually a well-crafted animatronic suit will have ample breathing room so that a skilled puppeteer can move and use specialized yogic breathing techniques so that they're not, like, dying inside this fucking suit. Kind of one of the big reasons Doug Jones is able to do what he does is he's mastered a lot of these kind of techniques.
Okay.
Which there's a story I think we've mentioned a couple of times where it was either on Hellboy or Shape of Water where a stuntman got into his suit for one take and had to be helped out of it so that he could rush out and vomit. The actors they were using in these alien suits were children because they were so fucking small, and they would start suffocating after 3 to 4 minutes. Nobody died. I will point that out. Nobody died. In addition to this, speaking of children, the two child stars, Sifue and Sifo, the two black children who are following Nuki around throughout the film, at the point of these reshoots, had aged 2.5 years since the original shots. So that's awkward.
I kind of want to watch it for that alone.
I mentioned, or rather, Peklepa mentioned that in the original cut there was no footage of South Africa itself.
Right.
So they did get a whole bunch of South African B-roll, which meant spending a lot of time just driving around to various areas in South Africa. And in the process of doing so, several people just fell horribly ill, including the director of photography, who at one point, Peklepa refers to it as a 40-degree fever, but he's talking Celsius. So it was 104-degree Fahrenheit fever. Naturally, this production ran out of money before they could find the last location that needed to be filmed, which was the Space Foundation. They had no actual set for the exterior of the Space Foundation. Peklepa tried to get Gregory to shoot some random skyscrapers in America, but apparently that guy didn't know how to use a fucking camera because the first reel that he sent came out blurry. The second reel that he sent came out completely blacked out. And the third reel that he sent disappeared from this plane of existence entirely. No one knows what the fuck happened to that film. So Peklepa was about to just say, fuck it, we're just going to develop the film without these location shots. But then some random camera guy who works at the camera lab goes, I know just the place. And he goes, and he comes back 3 hours later, and he's got the shots. These are the repetitive establishing shots that the Red Letter Media guys were bemoaning. There's just the same shot of the same area of this like vaguely industrial place. Like maybe there's science done there. Who knows? Maybe they're just making plastic. Maybe it's actually a vacant facility that's inoperable or completely out of operation.
Animal testing site.
Maybe it's an animal testing site. Who knows? Maybe there's porn shot there. Who fucking knows? Whatever it is, he got a whole bunch of different shots of it, possibly with some day for night going on over a couple of them.
Please don't.
He did it in 3 hours, man. I don't know what to tell you.
You know, that's fair. Yeah.
Peklepa had no idea who this guy was before this event, and he never saw him again after.
I was going to say it was Christopher Lee, but he did see him again.
They did see him again. Yes, we know for a fact. So it could not be Christopher Lee. Could have been anyone. Other than that, though, we can't really rule anyone else out, can we?
This is such a bizarre story.
The completion of all of this footage altogether took 9 months, which is 3 times as long as they expected, and multiple trips to and from South Africa. This was not done in one go. They had to convince this team to go back again and again and again, Germany to South Africa. In the end, Paklepa's a distribution company refused to release the film, and they dropped Nuki unceremoniously onto television. After some point, it eventually clearly got put onto VHS and released in some fashion, because someone had to have found out about it. It may well have been sold to about 26 countries after this point, but he's not entirely sure. His thoughts on the project itself: we thought we'd made the worst film on Earth. It's something I'd never done before, and I'll never do it again. He actively refers to it as the most wrong gone thing I've ever done in my life.
Shit.
And when asked about the Red Letter Media VHS auction, he said, "It's funny. It's nice. Why anyone would pay a fortune for Nuki is a mystery, but at least it was good for something."
Okay, so he's got a good attitude about it, kind of.
Got a pretty good attitude about the whole thing, all things considered. That's Nuki. That's everything that I've got on Nuki.
I went through so many feelings.
It's a bit of a roller coaster.
It really is. I'm fascinated. I kind of want to watch it now.
I don't. When I say that half of the movie seems to be just screaming repetition of names, that's not an exaggeration. Like, that pops up in multiple reviews on Rotten Tomatoes as well. Like, it's not just the Red Letter Media guys saying that.
I guess I just want to know if it's worse than some of the films we've covered.
Yeah, but it has to be, right?
What would you say this worst one? I mean, Saving Christmas for me is like hands down the worst one.
I would say Saving Christmas is hands down the worst one, mostly because it's not a fucking movie; it's a diatribe.
Right.
God, you're gonna make me watch this fucking movie, aren't you, Jack? I swear to God.
If I can find it, I mean, it's on YouTube in like 10 parts. It's like blurry.
You have to find a VHS, Jack. You have to find a VHS, and we'll go to my friend's place in Butler, and we'll watch it there. Jesus Christ.
And we'll do an episode on Nuki.
Oh,
a full episode. Hey, let's go to break.
Let's go to break, and we'll be back to fix Mac and me. Hey, I know that commenter.
Oh, it's a real person?
That's Mike.
Mike?
It's Mike.
What's Mike want?
He said, after the middle of my diatribe about Nuki, I just jump back over and I see, hey, I know these guys.
It's not somebody trying to sell us Dogecoin?
I don't think he's selling us Dogecoin. Mike, you're not trying to sell us Dogecoin, are you? I feel like I know you better than that.
Jesus Christ. I have to be up so early tomorrow.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What time do you have to go to work?
Well, I need to be there at 6:30, so...
Oh, God.
It's all right. I think I might just cut my face off and leave it there. Whatever the face does, they can consider it my job.
I guess. So,
yesterday when I was telling you about the ending of Plague Dogs in the book versus the movie.
Oh, God.
And I never told you what ending I thought they were going to go with.
What did you think they were going to go with?
There's the ending in the book where the dogs get saved. There's the ending in the movie where the dogs get saved. And then there's my ending, which is where the dogs get saved but spread the plague
to everyone.
Those filthy humans getting what they deserve.
Well, there's that.
I like my ending.
You're doing great, bud.
Doing so good, you guys. Best mental health person right here. Now my therapist is gonna squeeze me in.
Good. How's Instagram doing?
I got some people. I mean, I wish that I could actually tell if people are still hanging out or not.
Yeah, it only shows who's popped in, right?
Yeah. You could pop in for a second and then it would count them.
Yeah.
My fix shouldn't take long. I mean, it's more of an elevator pitch anyway.
I figured that would probably be the case.
I kind of had the wind taken out of my sails when I couldn't do McDonald Land. I really wanted to do like a Muppets movie version of McDonald.
That would have been so fun, right? Like,
I mean, it kind of surprises me that the McDonald's company hasn't tried to make them into like a franchise.
Honestly, I mean,
like movie franchise.
Sure, but like you'd have to think like they went to the trouble of redesigning a bunch of them and like cutting out a bunch of the obvious copyright infringement. Like, why not go for it? Like, it's not like they're lacking for the funds or resources to do so.
McDonald's, if you would like to hire on a consultant,
Ramming Speed Pictures is available.
I will not.
We'll shamelessly take your money and then make like 4 knife breakers with it.
We're gonna use that sweet McDonald's money to make stupid movies.
Yes.
Wonderful.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, are you okay?
Am I okay?
No, I'm talking to our audience. You did this to us.
Oh, I did do that to everybody. Yeah, is everyone all right after that? I'm sorry.
That was a roller coaster.
It was. Yeah. You may not have expected to dig into at least the basics of apartheid in this episode about Mac and Me, but you're welcome, I guess.
In my notes, in my script for this episode, I just have blah 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 racist director Nuki. Then I fixed the movie, and then that one word turned into like a 30-minute section on apartheid.
It sure did.
And
not just on apartheid.
No, not just on apartheid, but a wild movie production.
Yes.
I need to brush my teeth. Hey, let's fix some. I almost said Nuki. Let's fix some Mac and Me.
Let's fix Mac and Me.
So, as we've done in the past, we've kind of shifted from a full script of a fix to more of an elevator pitch.
Yes.
I want to keep the name the same. Oh no, I didn't. I lied.
You changed the name of the film
to Big Mac and Me.
Oh, maybe you're making it more on the nose.
Well, I was like, I'm going to lean into it.
Sure.
Because I hate it as it is, and I've only ever heard it referred to as a 90-minute commercial. So just lean into it. I
don't know. It's almost more of a commercial for Coke than it is for McDonald's.
Probably because McDonald's was like, we're with Disney now.
Yeah, that's how they got back at them a little bit. Yeah. We're gonna cut half of the McDonald's scenes and add more Coke.
Because Coke don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So for the theme of this Big Mac and Me, I wanted to push the Americanization towards the end of the Cold War, because this came out in August of 1988, and the Berlin Wall fell in November of 1988.
Okay.
We're still in a very pro-Reagan capitalist America, and while I hate everything I just said,
it burns. Yeah.
The pitch is going to be fully that.
Oh God.
It's all of that.
Okay. I guess.
If it makes you feel better, this movie will never get made. So.
Oh, good point. Yeah. Okay.
I was just trying to imagine, like, okay, so what if McDonald's came to us and they're like, hey, we need you to do Mac and Me, but like for Ramming Speed, and you have to hate yourselves. And be like, great, we're gonna do a Ronald Reagan era 90-minute commercial.
Well, by the way, you have 90 minutes to shoot it.
Yeah. It's gonna be about found family and broken family, which are stranger themes that keep coming up on my fixes. I don't know what that would be. Kind of a mix of like a Goonies with Lost Boys. Okay.
I mean that sounds fun. That part.
Well, like the vibe I want to give it is definitely more of the early to mid '80s style, which I think is what they were kind of going for. They just know what the fuck they were doing.
Because they had to attend to the legally dissimilar aspect of it all.
Right. And to kind of sell this to McDonald's, And this was put out by Orion. I don't think I said that.
I do remember this being an Orion film. I think I saw that and immediately messaged you like, this is an Orion movie.
I think they are back in some fashion.
I think you're right. Yeah, though it'll never be the golden days of RoboCop.
It will not. The underlying capitalist theme is that McDonald's and Coca-Cola bring people together. It creates family by creating nostalgia.
Say, I just feel some bile coming up, but yeah, no, it's I feel like the executives will eat that up. Yes.
I was just thinking about how I haven't eaten meat in like 2 weeks because of a mixture of the Essex episodes on last podcast about whaling and cannibalism.
Yep.
And then reading Tenders of Flesh, which is all about cannibalism.
Yep. You made some choices there.
I made some choices, and now I just detook it. Biggest change I want to make to this film is the design of these chicken skin testicle aliens.
Please, yes. What would you do differently there?
They're going to be rounder.
Okay.
Circular, because circles are a friendly shape as opposed to jagged and scrawny.
Yeah. Circles are I mean, Kirby is basically a ball, and he's friend-shaped.
He is friend-shaped. I remember watching this video on animation styles, and when they want to show a character that is friendlier, they draw with a little more like rounded edges.
Yeah. There's not sharpness to him. You want to know that you can hug this guy, and he's not going to stab your innards.
Which is why I'm giving him fur.
Fur
and a tail.
Oh, a tail.
Kind of a mix between a chimp, cat, and ET. There will be no glowing heart or stretchy neck.
That helps.
Okay. ET scared the shit out of me, and probably led to me distrusting the government a little bit.
Good. I mean, that last part. Yeah, that's fair.
Well, you've watched the cut where Spielberg replaced all the guns with like flashlights.
The walkie-talkies and shit. Yeah, it's real.
Now you were right the first time around.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A couple of changes to the plot. Instead of I guess they're not Martians. I don't know what they are. The aliens.
Cochians.
The Cochians.
Colaites. Drummond. Sorry.
The aliens. Instead of them getting like hosed into the robot ship.
That was fucking weird.
Weird and not explained. They stow away in the ship.
Huh. I think that would have been a lot easier to do, actually.
Well,
cut down your fucking effects budget a little bit.
And they are specifically sent by the Council of Furry Ball Aliens.
Yeah.
To investigate Earth.
Okay, so they're not just like stranded here because they got haphazardly caught in a vacuum.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The satellite or whatever was arrived on their planet. They're like, okay, well now we've got to check out to see if these guys are okay or not.
Sure.
They follow them back. Their intention being that they go as a family, so it's Ma and Pa and the kids.
Yeah.
To assimilate into American culture.
Oh, so they're going to try and blend in right away.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
And to do that, well, Mac's going to disappear in the same way. Like, shit hits the fan. He goes running off.
They get separated.
The remaining family shapes, so they can blend in. So
that's going to be real weird.
Appearance is weird on purpose.
So when they shave, do they then look like the awful monsters that we know from the movie as it is?
Yes, but not with that mouth.
Oh man, that never with that mouth. No.
So no one in this movie is dying from dehydration of Coca-Cola.
Good. That's a dumb plot line. I noticed you said nobody's dying, or you didn't say nobody's dying of explosion or gunshot.
Keep that. I think this is a plot where I kind of like built the ship and sent it on its way.
Okay.
Like, figured it out. Mac is not dying. He just misses his family. That's enough of a motivation.
Yeah, no, you don't have to have him also like draining his own life force for some reason.
I do want to put more weight on the individual friendships and connections between the human characters, but also the Mac and Eric.
Sure. Yeah.
I feel like the connection there was just like, we are told they are friends. We don't actually see any connection between
the friendship doesn't really make any sense.
No. I also wanted to add some additional tension between Eric and his mother, who we looked up is played by, I think, Christine Ebersole.
Christine Ebersole,
Yeah.
yes.
I like both their performances as with what they were working with. I think having them play off of each other a little bit with Eric. Eric's dad's not dead in this. They're just divorced.
Oh my god, that was the other thing that was like. I wanted to talk about that in part one, and we had so much other shit to say that I forgot. Like, it's really not clear like why they're moving. Like, it feels like it should be a divorce, but it's never really stated.
Well, I think what happened was E.T. very famously is about a divorced mom and kids.
And considering how much they're just kind of like one-to-one copying, that does make some sense.
However, for this, fuck it.
Because there were points where I was reading a little bit further into it because like there were points where like she's getting a ride home from like somebody that they know in the neighborhood. It's like, you barely lived here for any time at all. How do you know people? So like I had already started crafting this story in my head where they had a divorce or where they're getting divorced, but like maybe the husband doesn't fucking know about that yet because he's super abusive and they just fled.
You made that story way more interesting.
I mean, I also had to tacitly recognize, like, no, Joe, they didn't tell you that. That's just in your head. Like, you just thought, you just made, you're connecting dots that probably aren't there. It's probably ain't that deep, my dude.
They wanted these characters in this scene, so they had to kind of flub it to make it happen.
Yeah.
Eric actively blames his mom for the divorce.
Ooh.
His brother Michael's a little older, kind of gets it. He's still, like, upset, but I wanted to build a tension between those three characters because those are the actors that can act.
Yes.
And then when Mac, the furry ball creature, comes in, Eric feels like he can have a friend to relate to all on his own.
Okay.
Who he can kind of confide in and like have feelings with.
Does he still just whistle, or is he actually talk in some fashion?
Well, he's not going to sound like E.T. that kind of squeal screeches.
Oh God.
And he's not going to whistle. I'm thinking a little closer to the sound like the gremlins make.
What about scatting? How do you feel about scatting?
I feel great about scatting, personally, but we've already talked about my weird proclivities today.
Fair.
For this children's movie, we're just gonna have him do stupid legal gibberish.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe learn like a word or two.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Gizmo learned some words in Gremlins.
Right.
Yeah. Why not?
That's the name. Along with the redesign of Mac, I also want to make it large enough that we can fit an actor in it and have him do stuff.
Yes, 100%. Yes. Learn from Nuki. Just
words to live by. Always learn from Nuki. How do you feel about apartheid? Bad.
Hold for 1 second.
Holding. Hey. I did forget to recast the older sister.
Oh, the one that works at McDonald's, the one that ends up dating Michael.
Yes.
Kinda, I think.
Yeah.
Who did you want to recast?
Well, we have with the general rules of the show. We
recast two.
I have one for Mac. I didn't have one for her. Like, of the actors, she kind of felt like you could have thrown somebody in there a little bit more. Even though that actress did do a bunch of other stuff, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, like, on the one hand, I feel like she was fine. Like, I don't feel like her performance was bad, but also her character didn't really serve that much of a purpose, you know?
Yeah. In this I changed her to being a babysitter, so she has more of a.
Oh, okay. So she has a little bit more reason to be involved then. Okay.
Yeah. Like the mom doesn't trust Eric because they're having a tiff.
Yep.
And the mom doesn't trust Michael because he's a horny teen.
And she doesn't trust the neighbor kid because she's the weird neighbor kid that they just met.
Right. It has like a cat and a parrot they never talk about again after.
That's true. I forgot about all the weird pets that she has.
There goes the neighborhood. Fuck you. Fuck you. Who wrote that line? Was that ever funny?
No.
So for Mac, I wanted Ed Gale to step in.
Ed Gale.
Yeah, do you remember him?
I do. I remember that name. Where do I remember that name from?
Remember him from Howard the Duck.
That's why. Yeah. Oh man.
Because we have like nostalgia for this actor.
I loved him. He was great.
Just his ability to act in a suit that sucks so bad.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. And I mean, given this production, like even the version of the suit you're proposing is probably going to suck a good bit.
Right. Yeah. But it's still working off, fast food meat money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that would be a great improvement. Holy shit.
But yeah, I don't know. Somebody with like a little bit more recognizable for this sister. I would probably choose like a semi well-known TV actor at the time, because it's a small enough part that like, people will be happy to recognize a face, but it won't break the bank to bring them in.
Sure.
Yeah. I didn't watch a whole lot of TV in the late 80s, so.
I mean, you were 2.
I did watch Eureka's Castle, but that was.
I loved Eureka's Castle. Oh my god!
As much as I would love to bring Eureka in as the babysitter,
the additional puppet characters would be hard to explain.
Right.
Then you have to deal with Nickelodeon.
Oh god! They already snuck Ronald McDonald in there illegally.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, it's weird. I have in here that I cut the older brother, but actually, I like him. So
don't cut Michael.
I'm gonna have him getting a job at McDonald's to get closer to the sister.
I like that. That feels like some 80s teen shit right there.
Yeah. And the nostalgia comes in. The nostalgia with like McDonald's or Coca-Cola comes in because after Eric and his father, their thing was to go to a baseball game, which explains all the weird Cubs paraphernalia.
Okay, yeah.
And then go to McDonald's afterwards. So when Eric's bonding with Mac, Eric takes him to McDonald's to kind of like share him, like, this is my love language. It's heart clogging things.
I like that a lot more than just the like, we're going to a birthday party, I guess. Let's go.
Yeah. Terrifying teddy bear suit.
That's awful.
As far as like the mood and style go, it's gonna be E.T. but a little sillier. It has to be.
It has to be
stupid.
Yeah. No, you got to lean into the fact that it's gonna be goofy. Like, just accept it.
So as far as the ending goes, after what happens to the Mac family with them being chased by government agents, the aliens decide it's time to send in the Armada. And blast these filthy humans off the face of the planet.
Natural reaction.
However, should have spread that bubonic plague all across the country.
No.
Can't wait to watch Watership Down.
Words I've never heard uttered.
Sure, that'll really help my mood.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, man.
But the thing that prevents them from doing that is Eric and Mac and their friendship.
And that saves the world.
That saves the world.
That saves the world.
And honestly, the family, having grown up in Reagan's America, really love their experiences and want to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, naturally.
So the Armada's like, hey, we'll hang back for another day. Or another movie.
Mac will be back.
Mac will be back in Mac 2 Hamburglar's Revenge.
Oh, no. That one, the apocalypse does happen.
Yeah.
Directed by a young and naive Vincent Gallo.
No. That's let's end this episode. I have some nightmares to go have.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Oh god, I had a lot of fun with this one.
This was fun.
So Wayne,
a return to form.
Yes, a return to form. Thank you. So Wayne, thank you for suggesting this. I hope you enjoy these episodes, and I hope everyone else enjoys them as well. If you did, please rate and review everywhere you possibly can. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Please do that thing. It helps people find us, and finding us is good. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at DeRazzledPod, Facebook at DeRazzled Podcast, Instagram and TikTok at DeRazzled_podcast, and you can email us at DeRazzledPodcast@gmail.com if there's something you'd like to see us cover, or something you'd like to see pop up in our Redbubble store, or if you want to reach out and talk about a collaboration.
How do you feel like the Plague Dog should have ended?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, let us know. How do you think the Plague Dogs, the other disturbing movie by the guys who did Watership Down, should have ended?
Let me see. Hear rabbits scream and fight each other to death.
God damn it!
Did you enjoy that?
We'll be back next time. Please join us next time. We'll be sure to razzle dazzle you. Christ!
I was gonna watch Come and See, but I was like, no, that's even too dark for me. I don't need to watch that right now.
I agreed. We did it.
We did it. Hey,
we had done before 11.
Thank you, everyone who popped in on Instagram.
Mike, if you're still there, we love you. It was nice of you to
talk to you in Theater Jags soon. And Becca, who I guess is technically a theater jag as well.
Yeah.
Different variety.
Different variety of theater. Improv.
All right, good night.
Yeah. Oh, God. Mike, if you're still there, we love you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope to see you soon. Best to you and Lauren and Abby. Bye.